Good afternoon, you're watching Euronews now. It's Thursday, the 10th of February. I'm Andrea Balaitho, and these are your top stories this hour. Russia and Belarus begin military drills close to Ukraine's border, while a new round of diplomatic talks gets underway today in Berlin. I didn't kill anyone, claims Bataclan attacks suspect Salah Abdeslam in court in Paris as his trial continues. And at the Winter Olympics in Beijing, figure skating gold medals on hold after an athlete tests positive for a banned substance.
Russia and Belarus begin 10 days of joint military drills today in a ratcheting up of tensions on Ukraine's border. Russia now has 30,000 troops, 2 battalions of S-400 surface-to-air missile systems and numerous fighter jets in Belarus. The effect stretches Ukrainian troops and has prompted Kiev into holding its own military drills. The manoeuvres come as Western leaders continue diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the situation. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is involved in the current flurry of diplomatic activity. Speaking alongside Denmark's Prime Minister, he claims there are signs of progress in helping to stop Russia from invading Ukraine.
Of course, there remain serious points of difference in how we see things during these discussions, but there are discussions. The OSCE has likewise become again a platform for exchange on security in Europe, which we always stressed, and this is progress.
Scholz will travel to Kiev and then Moscow next week for his first face-to-face meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Britain's Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has arrived in Moscow for a 2-day visit for talks with her counterpart Sergei Lavrov. And the UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson will be in Poland for continuing diplomacy discussions. Last month, Russia announced it was staging various drills on land and at sea. Moscow continues to deny it intends to invade Ukraine, but insists its security concerns over NATO expansion must be addressed by the West.
Well, a rare bit of optimism, a little bit of optimism at least, coming from the German capital, Berlin. Olaf Scholz has said that the strategy currently taking place in order to deal with Russia's buildup of troops along the Ukrainian border, well, it seems to be somewhat working, at least for the moment, he said. And he's talking about a dual strategy. Diplomacy, on one hand, something that the German Chancellor himself have become more and more involved with over the last few weeks. And on the other hand, the more pressure side of things, putting pressure on Russia, talking about sanctions that will be very severe if the country does attack Ukraine, and also sending arms to Ukraine, something that other NATO members, rather than Germany, have done. This diplomatic part of this strategy will continue here in Berlin. Olaf Scholz will be holding meetings with the 3 leaders of the Baltic states, and also a crucial meeting is supposed to take place here in Berlin. It will put Russia and Ukraine in the same room together with France and Germany in the so-called Normandy format meeting. This will be a lower level meeting, certainly not the leaders or secretaries or ministers taking place, but lower level diplomats. But at the same time, it is still crucial, and it comes 2 weeks after the same type of meeting happened in Paris. And the hope is that this Normandy format will also be a way to find a diplomatic solution to this crisis. Jonah Calgren, Euronews, Berlin.
Japan's traditionally been the world's biggest importer of liquefied natural gas, but now it's decided to divert some LNG cargoes to Europe after a request from the United States and the European Union in the light of the Ukraine crisis. The gas shipments are expected to arrive next month.
Japan has secured enough LNG to meet domestic demand so far, although it is not in abundance. While international situations develop, as with Ukraine, Japan needs to align with the G7 countries, especially those with whom Japan shares the same values.
The United States and European allies have pledged economic and political sanctions if Russia moves its military into Ukraine. But they worry Russia may respond by halting its natural gas supplies to Europe. 40% of the EU's natural gas imports come from Russia, with demand high in winter, as do nearly 1/3 of its crude oil imports. The energy crisis was high on the agenda in Washington.
Today, our environment is characterized by the geopolitical turbulence in the context of Russia and Crimea crisis. And energy issues are central to this crisis because Russia doesn't hesitate to use the significant energy supplies to Europe as a leverage for geopolitical gains.
US President Joe Biden, meeting with Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz, vowed to shut down the controversial Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia to Europe if Moscow launches an invasion of Ukraine. Scholz, however, remained more ambiguous, promising only that he was united with Biden.
"5 seconds is all it took for a major leap towards unlimited clean energy on Earth. European scientists say they've hit a significant milestone in the development of fusion energy, the same process that powers the stars. The research team at the Joint European Torus facility in the UK blew past their own world record for energy extracted from the fusing of 2 hydrogen atoms. 59 megajoules over 5 seconds, enough to power 35,000 homes. They're calling the results groundbreaking.
The great thing about fusion is there's no long-lived radioactive waste. The product of the reaction is helium, which is just a gas that actually stays in the plasma and heats the plasma and eventually is pumped away. So that there is no significant waste issue with fusion.
If nuclear fusion can be recreated on Earth, it has the potential to produce virtually unlimited supplies of low-carbon, low-radiation energy. But its practical application is still many years away. Currently, nuclear fusion experiments consume more energy than they produce. The next milestone will be demonstrating scientific break-even. A suspected drunk truck driver in Germany has been arrested after plowing into more than 30 parked cars, setting some of them on fire and damaging a building. 3 people were injured in the crash, including the driver. Witnesses say he skipped a red light, touching a car that was at a crossroads, and then carried on without stopping.
The Paris police force issued a statement banning the French Freedom Convoy inspired by Canada's trucker blockade. The protesters are making their way from the south of France in convoys of vehicles to the capital and then on to Brussels to protest the COVID-19 restrictions. Authorities reminded the public that blocking roads is punishable with up to 2 years in prison, a driving ban of up to 3 years, and a €4,500 fine. Accused Bataclan terrorist Salah Abdeslam shocked a Paris court on Wednesday after taking the stand for the first time since his trial began 5 months ago. Breaking his silence, he declared that he did not hurt or kill anyone on the night of the Paris attacks on November 13th, 2015. In the deadliest attack on French soil since World War II, 130 people were killed. 9 gunmen targeted bars, restaurants, the Bataclan concert hall and the Stade de France before either being killed by police or killing themselves. The 32-year-old accused has admitted to being a member of the so-called Islamic State group and downplayed the attacks as nothing personal. He also claimed that he isn't a danger to society. For Philippe Duperron, president of the Victims Association 131115, it's the symbolism of the trial that matters.
As soon as we get to the real matter, meaning what is the mission, why and how were they sent, we see at that moment that they don't really hide behind their right to remain silent, but that they answer in a very evasive way and they don't give the real answers.
14 people have been put on trial for their connections or involvement in the Paris attacks, including Abdeslam and his brother Brahim, who was one of the attackers. 6 others are being tried in absentia, 5 of whom are believed to be deceased. The verdict is expected to be delivered in May.
After the break, more news and analysis from Europe and the rest of the world. Stay with us or check out our website, that's euronews.com.